How's it going, Giants fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rivardo. And of course, injury update Wednesday. Brian Dable just spoke about some guys that could be returning for week 6 against the Baltimore Ravens. Of course, a pretty solid opponent. The Giants are 5-point underdogs in this one. So obviously the Vegas is not giving them the respect that I think they've earned up to this point. You know, the Ravens are a good team. The Packers were ranked higher in terms of the power rankings last week. Of course, they dropped a little bit. Giants jumped into number 13, which is really, really high. And honestly, never thought we'd see that this season, but I'm here for it. Absolutely 100%. But the Giants could be getting back some impact players, and I think that's going to boost their chances of winning football games, even though they're pulling it out just based on coaching and execution discipline from a myriad of different players and just great coaching all around. But there are some big names. You know, Leonard Williams, we're going to discuss him. What WanDale Robinson's return might look like in terms of his impact. You know, definitely Azeez Gelari, he's a guy we want to discuss. Kadarius Toney, you know, we'll see what goes on with him. But, you know, I have an idea that I think probably makes the most sense. And I think, Anthony, you mentioned this before a couple of days ago. So I think we're kind of on the same boat for that. But, Anthony, before we dive into the injury update for today, get you guys all the information on some of these players that could be returning. Sorry. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, and I think this is a solid improvement here on the injury report. This is positive news, some really good stuff here. We're getting back some players, most likely, that will make an instant impact back in the lineup, and it's well needed because we're dealing with a lot of injuries right now. So we need some of these guys to get healthy and return to the lineup. I mean, we've dealt with injuries, a lot of them on the interior defensive line. I think I saw a stat where 3 of the Giants rookie class members ended up with torn ACLs already. That's bizarre, bro. There's something going on, whether it's the MetLife turf, Quest Diagnostics Training Center. I don't know what it is, but it's just bizarre.
Darren Beavers, was it DJ Davidson?
DJ Davidson.
Beavers.
And there's one other player
Marcus McKeffin. Marcus McKeffin.
There you go. 3 players with a completely torn ACL. I mean, it's just so weird, man. It's strange to me that the Giants just keep having knee and lower body injuries like no other, and it's super concerning. So thankfully, though, we are getting some players back from these injuries, most likely this week. It's a very important matchup. I mean, imagine if the New York Giants actually start the season at 5-1. There is a huge difference between 4-1 and 3-2, 5-1 and 4-2. Those are big differences there, just in terms of the cushion that you give yourself and with having a winning record. And I think that this is a super crucial matchup for the New York Giants. Wink Martindale going up against his former team. Maybe he will give Brian Dable some insight on Lamar Jackson. I saw that Dable said, I can ask Wink Martindale all I want about Lamar Jackson, but we still have to stop him. That rings true. That's absolutely 100% accurate. But thankfully, Leonard Williams, some other guys likely coming back to the lineup, make a big boost. Hopefully the New York Giants can pull off another upset victory.
Absolutely. You know, the concept of adding Leonard Williams back to the mix with a team that's already getting all pro level play from Dexter Lawrence is just mind boggling to me, right? Dexter Lawrence is on pace to have an Aaron Donald like season. That's how impactful he's been. You saw what Aaron Rodgers, if you don't know this, Aaron Rodgers spoke, I think it was on, who was it on? Some podcast earlier this week. And he basically was like, whoever 97 is deserves more recognition. Apparently, the entire offensive line was saying that he was completely dominant all game long, and they were completely overwhelmed by how good he was. Considering he's playing at that level, and shout out to Andre Patterson, the Giants defensive line coach guy, whatever he's doing, whatever he's feeding this guy Dexter Lawrence, he has taken it and run with it because it's unbelievable the insane leap of production he's witnessed this year. And I'll tell you what, the Giants, you know, adding back in Leonard Williams, he had 4 pressures and 22 rushing reps against the Carolina Panthers before he was injured. He was starting to ramp up. He was starting to look like himself again. You know, week 1, a little bit more on the quiet side, still played very good against the run. Obviously, they limited Derrick Henry quite significantly, and they tried to lean on the running game because their passing game was kind of thin. Still Robert Woods coming back from the ACL tear and whatnot. But I'll tell you what, you know, Leonard Williams in the running game, obviously an essential piece. The Giants have still been decent in that category, but him as a pass rusher, that's where things get crazy, right? You add in him with Dexter Lawrence, you can't possibly double team those 2 guys. Because then you got to worry about Kayvon Thibodeau, who has 8 pressures over his last 2 games. Then you got to worry about Azeez Gelari, who was limited in practice today. So essentially what I'm trying to get to, Leonard Williams, Azeez Gelari, both of them limited in practice on Wednesday. I think Leonard Williams, they're saying his trajectory is looking up right now. He could play this Sunday against Baltimore. That would be a huge bonus for the Giants. who could really use his services to contain Lamar Jackson. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence he's a fast guy for a 340-pound grizzly bear of a human being. But I'll tell you what, having Kayvon Thibodeaux, his speed on the outside, containing with Jalen Smith, who's been flying around with like a chicken with his head cut off. I've been loving to see how this defense rallies to the football, aggressive football. They look just phenomenal up to this point. And adding Leonard Williams back into the mix is only going to make them even better. So, what are your thoughts on Leo, his return, and what that would mean for the Giants defense?
I think that getting Leonard Williams back would be the most impactful return to the lineup. Leonard Williams is one of the best players on the New York Giants, and everything that he adds, like you just mentioned, not only as a run defender, but also as a pass rusher, is super instrumental to the success of the New York Giants defense. I mean, we've been talking about Kayvon Thibodeaux playing pretty well. He's getting a couple pressures here and there. He's batting down passes, playing high IQ football. We think he's playing well, but he could be playing a lot better if there's more talented pass rushers around him. When you've got Dexter Lawrence playing at the elite all-pro level that he's playing at, and then you have Leonard Williams next to him playing at his Pro Bowl caliber level, that creates a lot of double teams on the interior, which leaves one-on-ones on the exterior, which means one-on-one blocking opportunities for Kayvon Thibodeaux. He can pass rush just on a left tackle, and he can beat a left tackle with a quick inside move that we saw him utilize last week, and hopefully start getting those sack numbers up and getting after the quarterback at an even higher rate. Leonard Williams does a lot to set things up for other players, but he's also dominant in his own right. Again, he's phenomenal in run defense. He is a player that's reached double-digit sacks in his career, and he can do that again. It's been tough losing him from the lineup for the past few weeks because the Giants have kind of had to shuffle in a lot of really inexperienced interior defensive linemen in his spot. Thankfully, the Giants did have Dexter Lawrence playing at such an elite level to kind of supplement that loss. But again, you take out those rookies who were really inexperienced and not playing well, and you put Leonard Williams back into the lineup alongside Dexter Lawrence, who's maintaining his form and keeping his pace at such a high level, you're going to see a new New York Giants defensive front here because, again, the Giants defense is playing really well, considering the amount of talent that they have and the lack thereof, actually, and then the amount of injuries that they have. They're playing at an extremely high level. If they keep this pace, the Giants are going to go pretty far this season. But now that you're adding more talent into the defense with Leonard Williams, a big-time talent as well, the Giants' defensive run defense is going to be really, really good here. And, of course, like you mentioned, a big pass rushing boost on the interior. Can't wait to get Big Cat back in the lineup.
Absolutely. And he's coming back pretty quickly. And the next guy I want to discuss, WanDale Robinson. I am a huge WanDale Robinson fan. Anthony has his qualms in terms of just having kind of a smaller frame and shorter wingspan. But what we saw from WanDale Robinson during camp, what we saw during the preseason, the flashy moments, I think he could be a real important factor. It's pretty fun to see, the way you can utilize him because he's not just a gadget player. He can be utilized in those facets how the Giants have been utilizing some of these other guys. But it's pretty impressive to see, how they've been managing to supplement, the offense without some of these key guys. And WanDale is going to be an integral part to this team, right? Like we know this for a fact. He's a second-round pick for a reason. He's the guy that the Giants and the new management, Brian Dable, Mike Kafka, and Joe Schoen are really just investing in. He is a long-term solution. He is not a short-term guy. Now, a lot of people do say, he's small. He is maybe fragile. He had the MCL sprain in week 1. I'm not buying that yet. He's not injury prone. He was never injured during his collegiate career. Could have just been the MetLife turf, just getting hit the wrong way. And it happens. These things happen to every single player. So I'm not really concerned about injuries right now with WanDale or him being prone by any means. But it's fair to remember that this guy with Kentucky, he was a running back with Nebraska. And he was a receiver, transitioned to receiver with Kentucky. He ranked 12th in deep pass yards last year, and I think it was 4th or 3rd in screen yards. The guy, you can push him downfield. You can do so many things. And if you're looking at, running these bootleg, these screen passes, these play actions, these RPOs, WanDale Robinson is going to feast off of these. He is unbelievable in the short to intermediate portions of the field. He's quick, he's agile, he's fast, he fits into those small windows. You know what I mean? Like Daniel Jones is going to find solace in him. And I think that the red zone is another place I really think WanDale is going to get involved. We saw during camp, they were getting him a lot of work in the red zone, in the end zone specifically, and he made a lot of really nice catches. And you've seen what the Giants have been doing recently in terms of getting Daniel Bellinger the ball, where he was going to throw it, instead he runs it in, getting Saquon the ball. They've been very creative in the end zone portion of the field, and I think WanDale Robinson is going to play a very big part in that because of his gadget capabilities. They've been using those kind of gadget style plays, and he is very effective on those jet sweeps and whatnot. And just kind of using that smaller frame to his advantage. And he's very strong. I think he put up 19 bench press reps or something like that at the combine. So the guy is definitely strong as hell. I would not underrate that at all. And, the knee injury, I'm not too concerned about it. If he misses this week, I think he'll be back for week 7. But I do think that he is going to be a huge part of this offense upon his return. Obviously, we're going to see a lot more Darius Slayton moving forward after he took advantage of his opportunity in week 5 against the Packers. But, what are your thoughts on Wan'Dale? I know you have your qualms, but what kind of impact do you think he can have when he does return? Because the Giants are desperately thin at receiver.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I wasn't super excited by the Wan'Dale Robinson pick when it was made back in April. However, it did warm up to me throughout the summer because Wan'Dale Robinson was dominant during training camp. I mean, he was out there scoring a touchdown nearly every single practice, every scrimmage. He looked great, and I'm really excited to see him return to the lineup because now that we know we have a coaching staff that understands how to utilize players to their skill set, I do trust Wan'Dale Robinson to be a very productive player in this offense. Clearly, Brian Daboll, Mike Kafka, and Joe Schoen looked at Wan'Dale and said, this is exactly what our offense needs, so we're going to reach on him in the second round. If the Giants coaching staff and management felt that sort of conviction, and this is what we've seen from the Giants coaching staff so far through 5 weeks, then maybe we should all feel that conviction. It's kind of like I needed the coaching staff to prove themselves worthy before really getting on board with that pick. And in my opinion, through 5 weeks, the coaching staff has proven that. They know how to get the most out of players. So yes, maybe they reached on a talent. He was a 4th-round prospect. They took him in the 2nd round. That was the argument there. And maybe he was just a limited skill set gadget player. But clearly, this coaching staff knows how to use its players and felt a type of way about Wan'Dale Robinson and felt like they needed him in this offense. And now they're going to get him back. So, yes, I'm on board with Wan'Dale Robinson. I think he's going to have a very productive season from here on out. And I really can't wait to see him in the lineup because one of the main catalyst to my desire to see Wan'Dale Robinson on the field is because the Giants have no solid receivers on the lineup right now. I mean, Darius Slayton's playing well. David Sills is making a couple nice catches here and there, but really, we are thin at the position. We are ravaged with injuries. I mean, Sterling Shepard done for the year, torn ACL. Kenny Golladay, who knows when the hell he'll be back. Kadarius Toney, same thing. Every week, it's like, oh, he's got a chance to play, and then all of a sudden, he's got a new injury. So Wan'Dale Robinson hopefully returns to the lineup, makes an impact, whether it be in the backfield as a gadget player or it be out wide or in the slot as a true receiver. I think there is a role for him in this offense. And again, I'm trusting in Mike Kafka. I'm trusting in Brian Daboll and the offensive coaching staff to get the most out of this player as they have for every single player they've put onto the field this season. So I'm really excited for his return. I do think he makes an impact, not only in the short to intermediate game, but he's got the speed to take the top off of a defense. And I really can't wait to see if him and Daniel Jones can develop some chemistry here and start to add some yardage and passing touchdowns, hopefully, to their resumes and get some touchdowns on the board, score some points, and have Wan'Dale Robinson's breakout season happen right now.
Absolutely. And then there are 2 other players that could be, back in the mix. Tyrod Taylor, who we hope the guy doesn't have to play because Daniel Jones stays healthy. And then we have Azeez Gelari, who I still think will miss this week. Calf injuries can be a little bit frugal. And, they definitely are something you don't want to overdo because easy to re-aggravate those injuries. Azeez Gelari was dealing with a calf injury a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a different injury, a different part of his leg or whatnot. But maybe it was the other leg. I'm not exactly sure, but he did practice in a limited fashion today, which is a good news in terms of his ramp up. I think he probably misses this week and then comes back next week, which, will be fine if we get Leonard Williams back and he can stay healthy. Obviously we'll put our prayer tweet out before the game to make sure that we do our part and everyone's staying healthy and the superstition as well and alive. But I'll tell you what, this team is winning without a lot of key players. They're managing to do a lot with a little. And I think that ultimately execution, discipline, great coaching, and players doing their jobs, that's kind of like what it all comes down to at the end of the day. A lot of times you saw receivers running into each other. The discipline wasn't there. They didn't know the playbook. They were making mistakes under Joe Judge's leadership, and even Pat Shermer. So I think what we're seeing right now is players just doing what they have to do at a high level. They have a specific job, whether it's blocking on the outside, whether it's opening up a running lane for Saquon, whether it's a really nice fake handoff for play action by Daniel Jones. They're all doing it at a very high level. They're doing what they have to do at a perfectionist level. And I think that's ultimately what's fueling this Giants team right now. And they're not doing stupid things like turning the ball over. Daniel Jones is being smart with the football. And how many times in recent years did we see Daniel Jones turn the ball over and suddenly it flipped the entire momentum? And then, we were falling behind. what happens when you don't make stupid mistakes is that you keep the game close and you give your defense a chance to come up big. And that's what happened against the Packers. Daniel Jones didn't turn the ball over. He didn't make any dumb mistakes. Instead, he made smart decisions, threw the ball out of the end zone, lived to see another down, didn't fumble, didn't throw interceptions. And at the end of the day, ended up giving the Giants defense an opportunity to stop, Aaron Rodgers. And they did. Two batted passes. Kayvon Thibodeau gets hit in the head with one, gets close enough, makes a play there, and then Xavier McKinney bats a pass on 4th and 2, and the Giants live to see another day, and we got our 4th win of the season. And it all ties back into smart situational football, making sure that your time management is good, no turnovers, winning that battle, and the defense, and giving the defense a chance to come up big and make a good stop, and they did. So, Giants are playing complementary football right now. All cylinders are firing. Brian Daboll is really enacting on what Joe Judge said to us, right? Everything Joe Judge said, Brian Daboll didn't say, he just did it, right? He spoke with his actions and not his words. And that's something that I respect. That's something you hear him mic'd up on the sideline. He's running up to all the players. He's, giving them high fives. He's cursing and saying, we got to keep going. Good job. Like he's motivating them. He's positively reinforcing them. He's not making them run laps. We learned that lesson last year. So I feel good about the coaching. I feel good about the style, the strategy, and how they're getting the most out of all these players. And once we get back some of these key names like Leonard Williams, Azeez, Wan'Dale, I say we just shut down Kadarius Toney. And if you're up to this point in the video, Kadarius Toney did not practice today. He's probably going to be out this week, and I guarantee it. And honestly, if you don't practice, you're not going to play. If you're on the Giants right now, that's kind of how the strategy has been. But I'll tell you what, like you said last week, Anthony, put him on IR. Let him freaking sit on IR for 4 weeks so he can get 100% healthy. And that way he's ready to go down the stretch. Both of the guys' hamstrings are completely messed up. He can't run. He can't do anything. Why is he taking up a roster spot right now? Put him on IR, sit him down, use that roster spot for another player. We have Landon Collins coming back, I think, this week. So he's probably going to be activated. Why not Kadarius Toney head to the IL, spend that time rehabbing, get ready for after the bye week, and we can really utilize him down the stretch. We have a very favorable couple of games coming up with, I think it's the Jaguars, Seahawks, Texans. So that's a good situation for the Giants. These teams are not easy to beat, and no NFL game is easy by any means. But these are winnable games, knock on wood, for the Giants. And if they can do that, getting a healthy Kadarius Toney back after the stretch or down the stretch would be a huge benefit for them. What are your thoughts on that and putting him on IR? I think you do agree with that, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I floated the idea a few episodes ago, and I think that is the right move here. Kadarius Toney doesn't look like he's going to be ready at any time soon. I think that, this is already 2 weeks. I could have had him on IR. This could have been half of the injured reserve list. So it's a 4-week stay at minimum on the injured reserve list, and I do think that at this point, it's probably the best move for Kadarius Toney. He hasn't made a major impact on the Giants offense when he's on the field. When he gets on the field, he gets hurt. That's about the only impact he has, the impact of injuring himself or getting injured by another player and then just not appearing in the next game. Like, it is kind of at the point where I don't trust him to stay on the field at any point. Like, I don't think that Kadarius Toney has the ability right now to stay healthy. And I feel like the Giants are kind of wasting a roster spot waiting for him to get healthy. They can absolutely go out there, find some more receiving talent to inject into the mix and move him to injured reserve. And I think that is what they should do. But we'll see what the coaching staff ultimately decides. Maybe they feel like he's really close. Maybe they feel like he could play this week or next week. But at this point, I feel like we're probably not seeing Kadarius Toney on the field anytime soon, and it would be wise for the Giants to go ahead and attempt to find some sort of other receiving talent in the meantime while they open up a roster spot, moving him to the injured reserve list. So I guess we'll see what the coaching staff decides. Again, maybe he's closer than we know, but again, it just doesn't look like he's any bit close. It never has looked like he was close. When he's on the field, he still looks injured because he's not making an impact. He's not being the same play. He's not playing with the same playing style that he played with last year. I don't know if I trust this guy to actually get healthy at any point this season. So I'm in the boat, man. Just go ahead, put him on the injured reserve list, free up a roster spot, and get some more talent on this team.
Yeah, and absolutely. There's a couple other names I do want to mention before we log off here, and essentially that is Adoree Jackson. He was limited, but he's expected to be fine. So that's a really okay, we can't lose Adoree Jackson. That's one we can't lose. Yes, Fabian Moreau looked good last week. Cordell Flott still out. That's one piece we cannot afford to lose. Adoree Jackson has been fantastic this year. Just lights out, fantastic, Pro Bowl caliber season for Adoree Jackson up to this point. Cannot afford to lose him. And then Shane Lemieux was seen walking around without a boot anymore, which is definitely a good sign. So, if people are still thinking about Shane Lemieux, eventually he will return, probably in a couple more weeks. I don't think he's ready to get back just yet. They also have to make a decision on Nick Gates pretty soon. So we'll see how that goes. I think they have 21 days or a little bit less now after last week. I think they activated him off the PUP list. So they have about 3 weeks, a little bit less, to determine if he's going to be on the active roster or not. And then the last guy, Saquon Barkley. He was limited today with a shoulder injury, I think, but he should be fine. They're just giving him a little bit of a kind of like a workload regression and just kind of making sure that he's healthy. Such an integral piece. He's been carrying a big load. There's no need to overdo it for him in practice right now. Give him time. He deserves it. He's earned it. So I think that kind of like settles that. But just to round it out, guys, so you guys are aware, Leonard Williams, limited. Azeez Gelari, limited. Tyrod Taylor, limited. WanDale Robinson, limited. Saquon Barkley, limited. Fine. Dory Jackson, limited. Fine. Shane Lemieux, out of his boot, still kind of ramping things up. Nick Gates, ramping things up. Kadarius Toney out, Cordell Flott out. Guys that we kind of expected to be out. So nonetheless, hope you guys enjoyed this video talking about some injury updates. We'd love to hear your thoughts below on some of these players, especially the combination of Leonard Williams and Dexter Lawrence. I think that one's going to be some pretty kick-ass one. I want to check those guys out if they play this week. We'll definitely have to dive in some into those film and see how dominant they were. Definitely excited about that. But as always, my friends, make sure to comment in the YouTube and subscribe. As always, have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday. If you're living in New York, it is absolutely gorgeous outside. Go outside, get a beer, have some fun, enjoy the park. It's just a gorgeous day. So hopefully you guys take advantage of that before the winter months do stroll in. But hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Have a great one. Catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.